Jews never say these three phrases because they keep you poor forever. The rain in the Obsidian Archipelago doesn't just fall. It rhythmicizes against the copper eaves like a judgment. I remember standing on the precipice of the Cobalt docks, my boots worn to the thickness of a moth's wing, watching the merchant galleons disappear into the fog. My pockets held nothing but the ghost of a silver drachma and a crumpled eviction notice from the vellum registry. I was drowning in the quiet desolation, that specific brand of poverty that feels less like a crisis and more like a slow, suffocating fog. I thought I knew why I was failing. I blamed the erratic trade winds. I blamed the high arbiters and their heavy taxes on bioluminescent grain. I blamed the stars. But then I met Master Eleazar. He lived in a dwelling carved directly into the alabaster cliffs, a place where the scent of ancient parchment mingled with the salt of the sea. Eleazar didn't look like a titan of industry. He looked like a man who had spent a century befriending the silence. He was a keeper of the ancestral echoes, a lineage of thought that had survived empires and cataclysms. "Cassian," he said, his voice sounding like dry leaves skittering across marble, "you are carrying stones in your mouth and wondering why you cannot sing. You are speaking the language of the sunless valleys, and until you purge 3 specific poisons from your tongue, the gates of the luminous treasury will remain barred against you. The first poison: the soil is barren by decree." We sat by a hearth that burned with phosphate blue flames. I had just finished lamenting my situation, telling him that the current economy was a wasteland, that there was simply no opportunity left for a man of my station. "The first phrase that acts as a leaden weight on the soul," Eleazar began, leaning forward, "is any variation of 'the soil is barren by decree.' You call it bad luck or a rigged system. You say, 'There is no path for me here.'" He grabbed a handful of what looked like dry, gray dust from a ceramic bowl. "In the traditions of the sages of the silver cord, we are taught that the world is a reflection of the divine blueprint. To say the soil is barren is to insult the great architect. When you say, 'I can't succeed because of the times,' you are declaring that your environment has more power than your essence." I tried to interrupt, to tell him about the rising cost of star fuel, but he held up a weathered hand. "Listen closely, Cassian. Those who understand the flow of mana never acknowledge a permanent drought. They know that even in the heart of the iron desert, there are subterranean rivers. By saying it's impossible, you instruct your subconscious to stop searching for the water. You go blind to the cracks in the stone where the emeralds hide. Poverty begins as a linguistic surrender. You have declared a decree of barrenness over your own life, and the universe is simply fulfilling your command." The tension in the room shifted. It wasn't just a lesson. It felt like he was peeling back a layer of my skin. I realized how often I had used my circumstances as a shield against my own potential. I had comforted myself with the idea that my failure was decreed by the world, making it someone else's fault. The second poison: I am a solo voyager. The next morning the fog had lifted, revealing the shimmering spires of Ethelgard in the distance. Eleazar led me to a communal garden where dozens of people were working in a complex choreography of labor. They weren't just planting, they were whispering, sharing tools, and measuring rows with a collective precision that was hypnotic. "The second phrase that keeps a man tethered to the dirt," Eleazar noted, pointing to a man struggling alone with a heavy basalt block near the edge of the cliff, is, "I am a solo voyager," or as your modern tongue puts it, "I'll do it myself. And I don't owe anyone anything." I recoiled slightly. I had always prided myself on my independence. I thought my rugged individualism was my greatest strength. "Independence is a shiny lure that leads to the gully of stagnation," Eleazar countered. "In the ancient wisdom of the tribe of the tenfold blessing, wealth is never seen as a solitary hoard. It is seen as a circulation. To say, 'I am a solo voyager,' is to cut the wires of the network. It is to refuse the covenant of exchange." He explained that those who thrive understand that every great fortune is a tapestry woven by many hands. By refusing to ask for help, by refusing to build a community of mutual benefit, and by guarding my ideas in a lonely vault, I was ensuring my own insignificance. The wealthy never say, "I did this alone." They speak in the language of we and ours. They understand that a single thread is easily snapped, but a cord of 3 or 3,000 is unbreakable. You have been trying to build a cathedral with a single hammer, Cassian. Your pride is the architect of your poverty. The escalation of his critique was starting to sting. He was dismantling my entire identity. The lone wolf, who was actually just a lonely man failing in the dark. The third poison. The void is my master. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of bismuth violet, we returned to the alabaster cliffs. The final lesson felt the heaviest. The third and most treacherous phrase, Eleazar whispered, is "the void is my master." You express this whenever you say, "I'm just trying to survive," or "I'll be happy when I finally have enough." What's wrong with that? I asked, genuinely confused. Isn't survival the goal? Survival is the anthem of the beasts of the field, he replied, with a sudden sharp intensity. Man was made for expansion. When you say the void is my master, meaning you are driven by the fear of what you lack, you are worshiping the vacuum. You are focusing on the hole in the bread rather than the grain. Those who carry the inheritance of the sages never focus on the not. They focus on the is. He explained that saying, "I'll be happy when," creates a permanent horizon that recedes as you approach it. It keeps you in a state of perpetual want, which is a vibration of poverty. If you focus on the void grows. If you focus on the loom of potential, the fabric appears. The phrases of the poor are always reactive, responding to the shadows. The phrases of the prosperous are proactive, calling light into the room before the sun has even risen. You have spent your life reacting to your empty cupboards, Cassian. You have made the void your god, and it has been a cruel master. The shimmering turn, the plot twist. I sat in silence for what felt like hours. The three phrases burned in my mind. The soil is barren by decree, the lie of circumstance. I am a solo voyager, the lie of independence. The void is my master, the lie of lack. But then Eleazar did something unexpected. He handed me a small, heavy iron key. "You think I am teaching you how to get gold, don't you?" he asked, a cryptic smile playing on his lips. "Aren't you?" I stammered. "You're talking about wealth." "Cassian, the gold in the imperial vaults is just yellow stone. It has no power. The true secret, the twist that most never realize until they are on their deathbeds, is that wealth is not a destination. It is a frequency." He led me to a hidden chamber behind a tapestry depicting the constellation of the provider. Inside, there were no piles of coins. There were only mirrors, hundreds of them, angled to catch the fading light of the moons. The reason those of the ancient lineage never say those phrases isn't because they are lucky or greedy. It's because they realize they are the transmitters. The phrases I forbade you from saying are interference. They create static in the signal. When you stop saying them, you don't find wealth. You tune into it. It was always there, vibrating in the ether of the Obsidian Archipelago, waiting for a receiver that wasn't choked with the dust of "I can't" and "I'm alone." I looked into the mirrors and didn't see a beggar. I saw a man who had been holding his own breath and wondering why he was fainting. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't poor because of the world. I was poor because I was out of tune with the inherent abundance of existence. The conclusion of the echo. I left the alabaster cliffs that night, but I didn't go back to the cobalt docks. I walked toward the fields of Viridian, where the new industries were budding. I didn't have a single extra drachma in my pocket, but my tongue was clean. When a fellow traveler lamented that the trade routes were dead, I didn't nod in agreement. I looked for the new paths being carved by the mountain goats. When I saw a merchant struggling with his crates, I didn't walk past to save my energy. I offered my hands, and in that exchange I found my first partner. And when the hunger gnawed at my stomach, I didn't focus on the emptiness. I focused on the strength of my limbs that allowed me to work for my next meal. Within 3 lunar cycles, I wasn't just surviving. I was managing a small collective of amber extractors. We called ourselves the Covenant of the Spires. We never used the 3 forbidden phrases. We spoke of hidden channels, shared harvesters, and present abundance. The world hadn't changed. The high arbiters were still greedy. The rain was still cold. but I had changed the frequency of my reality. If you find yourself trapped in the quiet desolation, look at the words you are feeding your soul. Are you decreeing your own barrenness? Are you sailing a lonely, sinking ship? Are you worshiping the void? Purge the poison. Tune the instrument. The treasury is already open. You just have to stop arguing for your right to be locked out. If this journey through the Obsidian Archipelago has shifted the gears in your mind, then you are already closer to the luminous treasury than you were 10 minutes ago. We explore these ancient mental maps every week, uncovering the hidden mechanics of prosperity and the philosophy of the greats. Would you like me to show you the 7 protocols of the steward that the wealthy use to multiply their resources once the 3 poisons are gone? If so, click that subscribe button and join the Covenant of Seekers. We are building a library of wisdom that the world tried to forget, and your seat at the table is waiting. Don't let the void win today. Step into the light of the Is. See you in the next transmission.